In today's episode, we are talking about the biggest privilege you can give yourself, which is refusing to see yourself as less. This isn't about confidence here. It's about how your brain literally changes when you start trusting yourself. We will break down the science behind self perception, how social conditioning keeps you playing small, and why authenticity is the key to rewiring your brain for success. By the end of this episode, you will have the tools to stop second guessing yourself, owning your space more, and showing up as the most unapologetic version of you. It's a beginning of a journey, and I'm happy to have you on. And before we dive into if this episode or any past episodes spoke to you or speaks to you, please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future drops. And please share it with someone who needs these reminders today. And now, without further ado, we will go right into today's episode. How are you doing, my love? If I can paint you a word picture or word pictures, it's Friday afternoon. You could just hear my inbox popping. Just muted my laptop. So it's Friday early afternoon. I'm drinking a beautiful tea, my fur balls around me, and I'm excited that weekend is coming and the weather is cozy outside. And yeah, it's been a beautiful week, and I'm wondering how you are doing, because obviously this isn't about me, it's obviously about you. And today I thought I was so in the mood to do a podcast episode where we talk a bit more about self-trust and how it ties into authenticity and how this actually changes your brain chemistry. Because, you know, we always hear trust yourself and confidence and success. This is all tied in. And while that is all true, today I want to go a bit more deep into self-perception and how that actually, turns out to, or kind of how that shows up in your brain, because some of you might be more interested to understand things on a more deeper level. And that's what we're going to do today. Because whatever you do, the way how you see yourself, that is the foundation and the basics of everything you do. It really determines the opportunities you go for, the boundaries you hold, the people you attract, and the life you allow yourself to build. Like, I repeat, the life you allow yourself to build. Because very often we are so swayed by external circumstances, by other people, that we either blame or we put ourselves in a victim position to why we don't have what we desire to have, or why we are not where why we are not where we want to be in life. And here's the tea. This, what we talk today about, isn't some fluffy self-help concept. I'm trying here really with this podcast to go way deeper. And that is the reason why I bring in the brain today. And I'll make it very simple, because I am not a neurologist, that's my husband. I'm a lay person, but I also know that I'm always craving more information than just trust yourself, be authentic, because what in the end, the fuck does that even mean? So your brain literally changes based on what you believe about yourself. And that is where the power, so when I say like gain your power back, or you have the power, that is exactly it. So what you believe is actually where your brain starts to change. So based on what you maybe visualized, or what you maybe taste, some people taste or smell or hear. Not everyone is as visual as I am. That's where your brain chemistry actually starts to change. So we'll start today with the perception gap and why how you see yourself is everything. So there's this concept called the perception gap. So basically, the difference between how others see you and how you see yourself. And studies show that self-perception is one of the biggest predicators of success. So again, self-perception is one of the biggest predicators of your success. And I also know we always see ourselves usually less than how other people see us. And that is also something that we have to catch. We can't take that on and move with that because, again, our success is really based on how you view yourself, your experience, your expertise, your past, your future, and your present as well. And Dr. Carol Dweck, the psychologist behind the growth mindset concept, I'm pretty sure you have heard that already, found that people who believe their abilities can expand and improve, so people who don't see themselves as less, like, for example, if you know that, well, I am not that good, but I'm not bad either. And in the end of the day, I'm constantly expanding because I get new information in, I take action, and I improve. And you don't see yourself as less just because you might have not, let's say me, I'm not a Joe Rogan. I don't have these years of experience of doing podcasts. I don't monetize my podcast currently. But I don't see myself as less as a Joe Rogan, who is one of the biggest podcasters in the world, and I think still to date the most successful one in this universe. I don't see myself as less. I just see, well, by doing the podcast, I expand, I improve, I take feedback in, and I know some topics hit home, some don't hit home, and sometimes, I'm still honing my authenticity. I'm sharing more about me and my experience and bringing storytelling and stuff. So back to what Dr. Carol Dweck, found out. So people who don't see themselves as less are more likely to take risks, push through setbacks, and ultimately, obviously, achieve more. So that's not too surprising, I think. On the flip side, if you walk, for example, into a room and already believe you don't belong, what happens? We've all been there, and I've been there like more often than I would love to admit. So what happens? We'll shrink. We'll shrink ourselves. You will shrink yourself. You start to hesitate. You start to second guess. You focus on all the things that you don't have, but others might have. Maybe some people are more intellectual. Some people are more eloquent. Maybe some people look better. Whatever it is, your brain is just focusing on everything you seem not to have or be. And let's be real. This hesitation, that's what holds people back. It's not the lack of talent, because what I have experienced over so many years of being in corporate, being in business, coaching so many beautiful women, it's not that people did not get to where they wanted to be because they were less talented. I think this is even less than a percentage, to be really honest with you. I mean, of course, sometimes someone you see is really talented. For example, they can learn to play a piano faster than maybe I would if I tried. And then we can say, yeah, they are more talented. They not only learn faster, but they are also, make less mistakes. And they just, seem to be one with the music that they are playing on that piano. But often it's not really about the talent. And it's also not, and this is something that I wish I've heard in school, but I've never heard it. That's why I doubted myself. It's also not about intelligence. And why I say that is because I haven't been a good student. I have failed classes. I have had really bad grades. I struggled big times in school. I was also very rebellious, and I didn't give much of a fuck, to be honest, because school always was for me like, what I learn is not useful, right? And I always also thought, because there are kids who were extremely intelligent. They didn't need to learn as much or study as hard for math, for example, which I struggled big times. And I wish someone would have told me that it's not about intelligence either. And it's not even about external barriers. What it really boils down to doesn't come as a surprise to you, but it really serves you as a reminder, and we need to hear that more often. The internal belief that you are somehow not enough is the one thing most of the time that's either holding you back, creates a lot of hesitation, self-doubt, and lack of confidence. And the internal belief that you are somehow not enough creates an inauthentic version of you. So I am an authenticity coach. I do everything about authenticity. Coaching my clients, my podcast is about it, my Substack blog posts are about it, and also my authentic journal, which is obviously my newsletter, and my socials are all about authenticity. And underneath, when someone is inauthentic or plays a role way too rigid, because in the end of the day, you can be authentic and still are playing certain roles, right? If I'm in my corporate job, I have a certain role as a manager. That's a role. I can still choose to be authentic, but it's a role I'm playing. But some people play a role 24/7. They don't even know who they are. And I'm pretty sure you have been at that point where you are not sure who you are. I've been certainly there. And some people leave this earth never understood, finding out who they are. So the internal belief that you're somehow not enough trumps everything. So it's not about, someone holding you back, the lack of talent, the lack of intelligence, or external barriers. Is actually something internal. And this is good and bad news, right? Because it's not as easy to just weed that out. For some, yes, for some, less as easy, because a lot of those things come from childhood. And there is a lot of deep dive that sometimes needs to happen. For some, it needs to be even a deeper dive. So I've had people for 2 years working with me until we really weeded out those really, really pesky beliefs and subconscious blocks because of the message they received in their childhood. And again, this is like something that holds us back more than we are conscious of. And I'm sure you will acknowledge that as well when you look at some of the areas where you wanted to grow more and haven't yet, or where you say, I worked hard, or I really been on a journey to reach a goal and haven't reached it yet. And if you really think back to what are the factors, often we blame it on other things, but usually it's something that is more unconscious within us. And so and the bad news obviously is that it's unconscious, so we're often not, sure that this even isn't within us. And here's where it gets wild. So confidence, not competence, is what drives performance. That is something that I found very mind-boggling, because we always think when you start to do something for the first time, and obviously you start doing this and you're not so sure about it, or you stumble, you make mistakes, or you seem like really a person doing it for the first time, we always think we need to be more competent. We need to know more. We need to master something more. And while this can be true, very often it's not. And confidence is what actually drives your performance. And for me, confidence is not just confidence, like I believe in myself. It's also tied in with me being authentic while I'm showing what I can and what I not can, and be really gentle with myself. So a study published in Nature Neuroscience found that confidence was the biggest predicator of success, even more than actual ability. I mean, this is wild, isn't it? And it's great, because that means you don't have to be the most competent person. I think there was an author that published a few years back a book was quite successful with this, and said that you need to have 1,000 hours to master something. And when I saw that, I was so deflated, because I'm like, oh my God, 1,000 hours doing, for example, podcasting, like that is quite a lot. There's lots and lots of time that goes into until I can master something. And this study published in Nature Neuroscience says that success is what counts and not just your actual ability. And don't get me wrong, this is also not, something to, it's not a rule, it's not a law. Often, of course, your competence matters. It really does. But when you look on social media, and I do that quite frequently, you see a lot of people that have audacity. And audacity is for me something tied to confidence. So they have so much audacity, but underneath, they don't know half as much as I do or somebody else who I deem as really great, a great coach, for example. But they have the audacity to sell or talk about their work as if they were the queens out there. So, and I'm not saying that with resentment or judgment. I admire that because audacity is something that I know most of the women that come to me working with don't have. And I had to rebuild audacity from scratch, and it is not easy. I have to admit I still struggle with audacity because I got so conditioned to, to be really good before I claim that I am good at it. If that makes sense. It does, right? I mean, isn't this our social conditioning that, I had that in my childhood. My parents always told me, especially my mom, like, don't be such a big mouth. There's nothing behind. That's hurtful. That's really hurtful. I heard a lot of those messages, and I love my mom. I healed the wounds with her. But that is one of the reasons why my audacity got really squished in my childhood. My mom squished everything that I was proud of, and she had her reasons, not to excuse this, but, also to lay out there that she had her troubles. But it's been painful because every time I showed some confidence or was audacious, she shut it down, often in a very cruel way, what she said, and often in front of other people, which was very, very embarrassing for me. And then I felt so ashamed of myself. So I'm now a little bit detouring here, so let's get back. So what that journal also found out, that published journal, was that your brain literally fires differently when you trust yourself. So confidence, if it comes from that healthy version, which for me has to do also with being authentic, right? It's not just, I hate it, pretend, fake it until you make it. I cannot stand this fucking line at all. It makes me want to vomit. I believed in it a few years back when I was not confident, when I was so self-conscious, when I was like so in doubt and so resentful and so jealous of everyone who was a tiny bit better than I am. That was like, okay, fake it till you make it. And maybe it can be justified in some cases, but I would never, ever never say never, right? But I would not teach my clients at all to fake something when somatically, emotionally, behaviorally, in a mindset, it's not there. We need to find some basis that we can build on. And faking it till you make it, well, never worked for me. I found that immensely uncomfortable, but yeah, maybe it has its justification somewhere. I wouldn't completely say it's nonsense, but it makes me vomit just to think about it because it's so inauthentic. It is so fucking inauthentic. And to be honest with you, I see people who are so authentic and show that they don't know something or can't do something. And you know what? I love them. I appreciate them. I'm like, yay, root. Good girl. Yeah, gone. Good. Good girl in a sense of like, well done. Be authentic. Not good girl because you're being pleasing, fawning, or pretending that you are good just for the sake of goodness or kindness or niceness. But yeah, again, your brain literally fires differently when you trust yourself. And I think that is so important. And when you believe you're capable, So, and that's where it's so cool. So when you believe that you're capable of something, doesn't matter if it's good or messy, your brain releases dopamine. And that helps you with motivation and learning. You become a better learner. So you just need to know that you're capable. You don't need to have proof and evidence that you're perfect or good in something. You just need to know that you're capable. Let's come back to piano. If I never played piano. I played different instruments and I was never really good at it. And reading notes was a hell for me. You know, now I know it would be different, but when I was like 5, 6, it was really hard for me. And again, I wasn't good in school, so I think I would have needed more creative ways of expressing myself. And reading from notes and playing along them wasn't one of my strong suits back then. So if I was about to play piano, I never played, and I might even want to become really good in playing the piano. So all I need to know is that I'm capable, that I will be capable of it. Not like, I don't know, maybe I fail, maybe I will never get the hang of it. But like just saying, I will get capable of it. And that releases dopamine in your freaking head. I mean, amazing. And that helps you with the motivation to really push forward, to get pulled into it, even when it's hard, because I think learning piano is for sure one of the hardest instruments to learn. And it also helps you with learning dopamine, obviously. So, and now your prefrontal cortex, to get fancy on here. So your prefrontal cortex, if you don't know, is prefrontal. That means it's in your forehead, that part of the brain. And it's a part of the brain that's responsible for problem solving and decision making, works better when you are in a confident state. It works better. I mean, duh. If I tell you this, you're like, yeah, of course, makes sense. Makes total sense, right? Your fucking brain that solves problems, can make decisions, analyzes, learns a language, does better when you are in a more confident state. I mean, if I think back into my school days, I was so not confident because I was so bad in many subjects. Of course, do you think I was good in learning? No. I sucked in math, physics, chemistry. Oh my God, just thinking of it, I get a pit in my stomach. So the thing is, your prefrontal cortex works better, and when your prefrontal cortex works better, when you are in a confident state, you also think clearly. If you want to think more clearly, it's not happening when you are in a nervous system fight, flight, or freeze. It only works if I'm in a confident state, and if I am in a confident state, I am in a nervous system state of belonging, and I'm connected. I'm connected to the world. I'm connected with myself, with my ability. So I can think more clearly. I can react faster. And with that, I'll take action. So whenever I have a client who is not taking action and they have all the information, all the strategies, the missing key is the trust, the authenticity, the confidence. Those are the areas we dive into, and then obviously we dive deep. So when you are stuck in self-doubt, your brain activates the amygdala. And the amygdala, I'm sure you are so smart and so intellectual that you already know what the amygdala is, but I also want to repeat it also for myself. That's the part responsible for your emotions, and especially for detecting fear and threat. And when you're in self-doubt, what will happen? You hesitate, you second guess, and you play small. And I also want to add on here that when you judge yourself, remember this. This is so important. It changed everything for me when once I read about it, and it made also all this sense. When you are judging yourself, you are activating, obviously, your amygdala, and your nervous system will go from connection, from trust, to fight or flight or freeze or fawn. fawn, right? When you start to please. So I always tell my clients and I remind them, if you start to judge yourself and you don't catch that, your nervous system gets dysregulated, your whole body temperature, blood pressure, heart rate, everything starts to change. Your pupils get dilated, and does it get dilated or actually contracted? I'm not sure. Anyway, like your physical conditions are changing. Your eyes, you might sweat, or you get hotter. Your feet get cold or hands get cold. This is always what I observe in sessions. It's so visible sometimes for me as a coach. I see like my clients change their face color. They go from rosé to completely fucking pale as a wall painted in white. So in short, believing in yourself doesn't just feel good. It makes your brain work better. And if that's the case, why do you struggle to trust yourself? And of course, well, you guessed it, the social programming keeps you small. I already explained a little bit about how it was in my childhood, but the conditioning, what we take from our parents or from people around us, from our peer school, that's all like the whole stinky pot with all these stinky ingredients that are not ours, but kind of squished us, our personality, our soul. Because you don't just wake up one day as a child or as a baby. I mean, as a baby, you might not think, but as a child where you think like, oh, today I am feeling less than. You are taught to believe it. Experiences taught you this. People might have told you that you're not good enough. You have felt that, and often more on a somatic level before you even had words. And if you're a woman, then this programming is extra strong. I feel it's extra strong, at least is my experience. I'm not to say that it's not also extra strong with men or with boys, but speaking of women, we have a bit of a different social conditioning. And yeah, let's leave it at that. So from the time you are little, you are taught to be likable, agreeable. Oh my God, please stay fucking humble. And not the kind of humble, that means staying grounded, because humble isn't bad. It's actually good. But the humble that I refer to is that kind that really dims your light so you don't come off as too much. And you're taught to earn your worth, with good grades, and you have to wait for permission and to prove yourself before you take up space. And yeah, for some men, they are taught that confidence is more or less their birthright. And that's not just anecdotal. Research also backs this up. So there is this Hewlett-Packard study that found that women only apply, and that's so interesting. They only apply for jobs when they meet 100% of the qualifications, while men apply when they just meet 60% of the qualifications. I mean, in this study, let me just take a sip of tea, please. And this study hit home because if I then, reflected back on the days when I was applying for jobs, I always was like, oh my God, I don't match this, and this qualification, so that job isn't for me. I would think that as a woman, and according to this study, a peer who is male, same qualified as I am, might just think, oh, well, that's a job that I can do. I can totally do that. So isn't that, I mean, in one hand, it's funny. Sorry, my throat is a bit itchy. On the other hand, it's also not funny. Sorry about that. So think about that. The gap isn't ability. This is about self-perception that I mentioned in the beginning. It's the belief that you have to check every box before you are allowed to go for what you want. And that belief, it's keeping you stuck and so many other people. And here's the thing, authenticity is the antidote to all of this. And now we're diving into how authenticity rewires your brain and breaks the less than mentality. So let's bring this full circle. And then we wrap up with some next steps, how you can actually basically rewire your brain. So your brain thrives on authenticity. When you're operating from a place of deep self-trust, when you allow yourself to be fully and unapologetically you. If you have trained yourself gradually, because this is not a switch that you flip, this is a gradual process that can take years. If you learn and train yourself to be safe in who you are, your nervous system is calmer, your cognitive functions improve, and you make better decisions. When you force yourself to be someone you are not, then you shrink, you please, you filter every thought before you say it, or when you say something, you kind of bash yourself for the stupid things you have said, even though they were maybe not stupid at all. And that activates your stress response, and that really shuts down parts of your brain that you need to be creative, eloquent, intellectual. So listen, if your amygdala fires when you bash yourself, when you doubt yourself, when you are judgmental towards your own self or don't like yourself, your amygdala kicks in and your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that's creative, logical thinking, reasoning, speaking, blah, 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 it will shut down. I mean, not the speaking ones. Sorry, I think this is another part of the brain, but at least the thinking, like the intellect, the creativity, this all comes from the prefrontal cortex. And when you judge yourself, that part of the brain is shut down. That's when you suddenly go blank. When clients tell me, oh my God, someone said something and I didn't know how to respond because I wasn't prepared and I didn't have a good response back, they go blank. And that is because the prefrontal cortex doesn't fire. The brain region is kind of shut down. And the amygdala is actually like already fully in fire and full in charge because it detected a threat of another person saying something to you that you don't know how to respond. And maybe it's an underhanded compliment or an underhanded thing that they told you and crossed the boundary. Okay, so I'm getting full into rage here. Not rage, but like full into But, and every time you override that fear and you choose authenticity, even if that is hard, you decide that you belong here. Your brain literally rewires to the better. But that's a hard process. This is not like, oh my God, be authentic and your brain rewires. Yes, but underneath is a long process often that is laborious, that can be scary, that sucks very often because you lose a lot of people on the way. I mean, at least I lost a lot. So, well. Okay, so here is how you start shifting this today. And then I'll have my final thoughts and then we'll wrap up for today. So first of all, catch your narrative in real time. And this is the first step that I want you to implement and practice over and over again. I know it's nothing new, but this is something you have to practice. How I changed my extremely vicious inner voice, that was my mom, that was often a teacher or whoever else was mean, nasty to me. How I conquered that voice was really catching a narrative while it was happening. So pay attention to the small ways you minimize yourself. Are you downplaying your skills? Do you hesitate before speaking up? Do you tell yourself you're not ready when deep down you actually are, and it doesn't really matter if you're ready? You just have to do it. Call that out. Don't neglect this. I mean, I don't want to overwhelm you and say, okay, take note of everything and change everything. No. But for example, when I tell something from my own, so it's easier to follow. So I was shit scared and batshit scared to speak up in a group. So when the whole world shifted to online And sometimes I was in groups like masterminds for business or in corporate that I did not know. I was extremely, extremely shy and afraid to speak up or to raise a hand and ask a question. That was so hard. Do you know how long it took me from catching this? Because my first business mastermind I was in 2020. It took me 3 years of being in programs with groups, masterminds, whatnot. It took me 3 years. When I dared to speak up, when I really pushed myself, I was stuttering. I sweated like crazy. I got hot. I dissociated. I went blank. I almost cried. I was a disaster. And it took me 3 years to work on this. Okay? So that took me that long, might not take you that long. Maybe you have other areas you can't relate to that because you are always the one to ask questions and, you always contribute and always, fully at it. But it took me such a long time. And even today, sometimes depends on the people, on the group, on the topic and the context. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes I still have challenges and then I really need to consciously work on this. But again, you need to catch that absolutely in real time, okay? Then the other thing is then rewire how you speak about yourself. This is gold. Do you know how often I talk to friends, family, or whoever else, and then I made a mistake or misspoke and I said, I'm so stupid, I'm so stupid. That was actually, I said it without even thinking about it. And I had to catch that to really say, I'm not that stupid. I'm not stupid at all. I am actually smart, sexy, gorgeous, fabulous, kind, compassionate, amazing, blah, blah, blah. I had a rule that every time I caught myself either thinking bad about myself or saying it out loud, that I need to have 10 adjectives describing myself in a positive light that I truly believed in. It's not like that I just made things up because again, faking till you make it doesn't really make sense. So obviously it took me time to really say, hey, I'm a brilliant person, I'm amazing. That took time as well. Sometimes I was a bit more humble. It's like, okay, I'm good, I'm this, I'm that. And now I'm like, hey, brilliant, amazing, wow, what a force in nature. And that was a long practice to get me even officially say those things about me and really feeling it and believing in it, because you can see all those things and then inside of you, you know exactly when you're lying to yourself. Okay, so neuroscience tells us that words shape reality. So if you constantly say, I'm just not good at that, your brain treats it as fact. I mean, wow, imagine. Do you want to have that do you want to have that as a fact in your brain that you don't that you are not good at that? No, you don't. So instead you shift it to, hey, I'm learning this or I'm building this skill. Small language shifts really create massive confidence shifts. I used to say I'm not there yet. I use the word yet so often. I don't know that yet because when I wanted to know something or get better at it, I just said, I'm not there yet. I'm not good at this yet. I can't say that I'm not good at that yet. But better is if you say, hey, I'm building these skills. I'm learning this. And the last thing I want to mention is move like someone who believes. So, and that doesn't mean like, fake it till you make it, but also confidence isn't really a feeling. It's more a decision that you have to make before you are feeling confident. So whether confidence is a feeling or not, it's first a decision. So you walk into rooms like you belong. For me, it's like asking a question because there are no dumb questions. And I know by me asking a question, daring to speak a question, I will help other people who have that question too and maybe are also too shy to ask this question. So I made a decision one day. I was like, I don't want to be that one who holds back, who hides behind her computer screen. Okay? So walk into rooms like you belong, take up space. And when self-doubt creeps in, ask yourself, what would I do if I truly believed I was enough? And then go do that. Again, what would I do if I truly believed I was enough? So, whatever it is for you, maybe it's building a business or selling an offer, or maybe ask for the promotion, for a salary raise, or take on a new hobby, or whatever it is. Reflect and think about this question. What would I do if I truly believed I was enough? And then you get answers. If you're really honest with you, you get the best answers, and then you can, break it down into simple, everyday, actionable steps. Okay. And my final thoughts. I think this podcast episode is absolutely amazing. I say that straight out. I really believe that the work I bring into this world is absolutely helpful. And I do that for my younger version, and I know some of you might also resonate with today's episode. And my final thoughts to this whole thing that I was saying is, that I really want to bring closer to your heart, is that the biggest privilege you can give yourself is to allow yourself to claim what your desires are, to claim what you want, to claim and get it. Because the biggest privilege isn't wealth or status or even talent. Fuck that. It's the refusal to see yourself as less. Because the moment you stop waiting for the world to tell you're worthy, or present on a silver platter that, yeah, go do it, or getting an external permission slip, the moment you decide for yourself that you are, everything shifts. I want you to stop playing small. Stop waiting for permission. Refuse to see yourself as less, because you never were less. You're always enough. You have to own it. And with those 3 simple steps, you can start shifting your narrative today. Start into a journey where you become more authentic, small but steadily more confident, because you take the action and you catch the narrative in real time. You rewire how you speak about yourself. Instead of saying you can't do it, I'm learning this, I'm building this skill. Not saying I'm just not good enough at that. And then you move as someone who believes. Again, confidence is first a decision before it becomes a feeling and something embodied. Love, thanks for tuning in today for the I Do Me podcast. If this episode hit home for you, it would mean the world to me if you subscribe to this podcast. You can subscribe on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or send it to a friend who needs to hear what we both talked about today. And as always, keep owning your space, because living authentically never goes out of style. Okay? And again, the biggest privilege you can give yourself is to refuse to see yourself as less. I wish you a wonderful week, day, and until next time, take care.